Welcome to Coal Nation, the official podcast of the American Coal Council. Join us as we dive into the critical conversations shaping the future of coal. From industry experts to policymakers, we're exploring coal's essential role in America's energy, economy, and global trade. Whether it's powering communities, driving innovation, or securing strong global economies, coal is at the heart of it all. ACC, proud to be American, proud to be coal. Coal Nation starts now.
Welcome back to Coal Nation, the official podcast of the American Coal Council. I'm your host, Emily Arthun, and today we're talking about something that's been brewing in the industry for a while now, a true renaissance for coal. My guest today is someone that's not just talking about that future, he's helping to build it. Dan Connell is the Senior Vice President of Innovations at Core Natural Resources, and he also serves as President of its Innovations and Touchstone Advanced Composites subsidiaries. He's recognized as a leader in carbon management and coal-to-products, with a sharp vision for how this vital resource can drive progress in sustainability, material science, and industrial tech. Dan and I first met in New York, where he shared his belief that we're entering a new chapter for coal, and I think we're truly seeing that unfold now.
Like the sun and the trees and the oceans, they were given to us by the grace of nature. They are Earth's natural resources, essential not just for our survival, but for our flourishing. And while they've been with us since the beginning of time, they are now a part of us, a birthright, inseparable from who we are as human beings. And that's the thing about resources. They come with a choice. And what they become brings meaning to all that surrounds us, lifting our lives, fueling our freedoms, and sustaining our future. Indispensable, abundant, and beautiful, taking the shape of our highest ideals. We are Core Natural Resources, and we are here to build a better tomorrow.
Before we dive in, I'd like to give a special shout out to our sponsor for this episode and valued advertising partner in ACC's American Coal Magazine and Coal Industry Buyer's Guide, Elgin, an Aztec product line. Elgin is a leading provider of high-quality Tabor vibrating screens and CMI vibratory centrifuges for the coal prep industry. Visit elginseparationsolutions.com to learn more about their solutions for our coal industry. Dan, I'm so glad to be here. We met several years ago when I first took over this role, and to see what you're doing out here in Tridelphia is incredible. And so with that, I think we can jump right into the Coal Nation podcast and talk about the coal renaissance is here.
Yes. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. The formation of Core Natural Resources, your innovation in coal innovation, your leadership in coal innovation, and how CNR is reshaping the coal industry. Can you talk about how that's happening and what we saw today and how that's going to play into the future of coal?
Sure. Yeah, I think you mentioned the coal renaissance, and I think that was probably back in December of 2022, if I recall correctly, in New York. But at the time, I think we were seeing all-time high coal prices, both on the thermal and met sides just prior to that. And I think there was a renewed appreciation of kind of the essential role that coal continues to play in providing for basic human needs, not only in the United States, but around the world. And so we were seeing a rebirth of sorts, right? We'd come out of the dark ages of COVID, and we're kind of reappreciating the role that coal plays. So the excitement has continued. I think what we're trying to do today is kind of capitalize on the momentum and take it to the next level. And hopefully you saw a lot of outside the box thinking here with your visit to innovations today that kind of builds on that theme of maybe not only the Renaissance, but the scientific revolution and the enlightenment that follow.
Absolutely. It's been great to see this in action and see what you're doing, but I think I need to take a step back a little bit and talk about it's now Core Natural Resources.
Yeah.
And we saw the merger of Consol and Arch earlier this year.
Right.
And walk us through that just a little bit, putting these two powerhouse mining companies together and how it's going.
Sure. No, it's a very exciting thing to be a part of. And I think one of the really neat things about that merger is you have two companies, as you said, both powerhouses with long histories, but very complementary in terms of kind of the assets and resources that came together in the merger. So we are now a company that has a very nationwide presence in the United States. We have major operations in the East in Pennsylvania and West Virginia, a couple of terminals on the East Coast, but also a very strong presence in the Western U.S. with our Powder River Basin assets and West Elk in Colorado. We cover thermal coal, both in the traditional power generation sense, but also thermal coal in kind of the broader industrial sense, especially on the export market. We sell a lot of coal into industrial markets for things like brick making and cement making. And we have a very strong metallurgical coal portfolio as well. So, kind of hopefully putting all of the different pieces of the coal industry together on one platform. Our hope is that we can use that to be a strong voice for the industry and to be a very strong influencer moving forward in an industry that we still believe has a lot to offer.
Well, and certainly we have seen a change in tone with the administration change in that coal is valued. And we saw that with metallurgical coal being deemed a critical resource,
For sure.
which is an incredible ad for our industry. But just the positive press that we're receiving right now is incredible. But can you talk a little bit about how you see metallurgical coal getting that status of a critical resource, helping out a little bit?
Yeah. No, I mean, when you look at the role that coal plays, I think obviously the mainstream impression is that it's a source of energy, and it does remain the single largest source of electricity globally, accounting for about 35%. But coal plays a tremendous role in infrastructure and in providing many of the materials that we need to kind of go hand in hand with energy and providing for quality of life around the world. And metallurgical coal is a very unique material. Not all coal is metallurgical coal, and obviously as time goes on, our reserves become more and more valuable to protect and preserve. So it was great to see recognition of kind of the role that metallurgical coal plays. It's obviously a key piece of our business and will continue to be going forward.
So as we talk about metallurgical coal, and it is valuable, our coal assets are extremely valuable. Let's roll into the innovation and what we're seeing here today at this facility, which is incredible. And what are some of the breakthroughs that you've been working on?
Yeah. No, I think at Innovations here, we're really focusing on the same kind of pillars that our traditional coal business has served and continues to serve. We just talked about them, right? Reliable and affordable power generation, obviously something that coal has enabled for decades at this point. And then infrastructure, urban development, transportation, providing a key ingredient in the manufacturing of things like steel, brick, and cement. Those have kind of been the staples of the coal industry. They're what Core Natural Resources continues to focus on every day and they're going to continue to be very important areas of need and use for coal going forward. But innovations is kind of trying to think forward a step or several steps and say, how can we take this same abundant resource that, the United States leads the world in coal reserves. We know how to produce it responsibly, but kind of reimagine how it can meet those areas of needs in futuristic kinds of ways. So, rather than using metallurgical coal to make steel, we're looking at maybe using the same metallurgical coal to make advanced carbon materials like our seafoam carbon foam that's playing a critical role in the aerospace industry in manufacturing high strength, lightweight carbon fiber composite aerospace parts. So kind of the same end use application, but getting into some very high performance areas where temperature resistant, high strength, lightweight materials are needed, and carbon, and it can be carbon derived from coal, can rise to the challenge and meet that demand. Similarly, on the energy side, coal has been kind of a very reliable, affordable baseload fuel for power generation around the world, as we talked about. When we think outside of the box and look ahead, we're looking at batteries. And obviously, one use of batteries is providing kind of that reliable backup for intermittent sources of power like renewables. But let's face it, batteries are everywhere in our daily lives. We're using several of them right now. But the battery supply chain is one right now where the U.S. is heavily import dependent. Most lithium-ion batteries use graphite electrodes, and overwhelmingly that graphite today comes from China. About 98% of battery-grade graphite comes from China. So one of the opportunities we're looking at is, can we take our domestic carbon resources and innovate ways to use the carbon in coal as an ingredient in anode materials that can be a substitute for imported graphite. We have a joint venture called CBAT. It's based outside of Orlando, Florida, that's doing just that. So just a couple examples of the kind of the outside the box futuristic uses of coal that we think can complement all of the traditional roles that coal will continue to play for many years.
So when we went out to the Innovation Center and we're walking through and seeing all the things, and Bill McFadden, who was on the tour with us, the seafoam that's coming out in the kind of the rectangles, he's like, well, how much does one of these weigh? And the comment was, well, it's about 30 pounds, 35 pounds. And he's like, well, traditional steel would have been so much more. Yeah.
16 times as heavy.
Yeah. And so just the ability to capture this in a lighter form, safer form, shall we say, and easier on employees and different things is incredible. But as we're walking around and looking at things, you've got so many things going on out there. And you've got these huge CNC machines that are creating, you call them tools for the listeners. You may think of them as kind of models that you are building.
Like a mold.
Like a mold, like a mold. And the precision work that's going on within micro. And then you walk outside and you get to stand on a deck that's made with carbon fibers. And it's incredible to see all the uses. I think, though, I want you, just because it was something I hadn't seen before, I think it's pretty cool, is the visor.
Yeah.
The cooling visor that was on Olympic athletes in Paris last year. Can you tell me a little bit about that, or tell the listeners a little bit about that? Because that was awesome.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily fall into the buckets that I described that are kind of traditional, but yeah, it's definitely outside the box. So that was it's kind of an athletic headband made by a company called Omius, and uses basically graphitized carbon elements to transfer moisture and heat, kind of in the same way that a radiator would, right?
Yeah.
From your forehead.
Yeah.
and keep you cool while you work out. And one of those really interesting, innovative concepts that weren't sure what was going to become of it when we were first approached to manufacture those heat transfer pieces. But as you said, it's been worn by a number of triathletes at a professional championship level, and it was pretty validating to see 3 of the 6 medalists between the men's and women's marathon at the Paris Olympics wear those headbands that started with material manufactured right here in West Virginia. So definitely some applications that catch you by surprise, but make a whole lot of sense when you think about.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's from the very large to something that's just that small that can impact all of our lives.
Yeah, and it speaks to the versatility of carbon, right? Which is what coal is providing here, is generally a source of carbon that we can then engineer to have a variety of different properties to fit different applications.
Yeah, truly an incredible element for sure. So one thing before we move into the rapid fire 5 questions, the Consol started a marketing campaign called the Coal Hard Truth. And it came at a time what I think truly was very critical for the industry to have that external source on socials, on a website where people could go and get factual information. And we have became the Twitter society where if you can't see it in 3 seconds, it's not gonna be real. So tell us a little bit how that was born. I truly think it's been effective. I use a lot of the resources from the Coal Hard Truth. The timing was perfect. How did you hit the market so well?
No, I think kind of as we talked about the coal renaissance earlier, we felt that there was a perfect opportunity to really up our game. And I think a lot of people would probably agree messaging is something that this industry has struggled with. But at the end of the day, there are a ton of myths out there about coal that often paint the industry in just an inaccurate light. And it's hard to have a reasonable dialogue that kind of moves things forward without folks being aware of the facts. So the campaign was really born from our CEO at the time, Jimmy Brock's vision and strong desire to let the public know why coal matters and reinforce that, and came up with kind of this myth reality approach of positioning that, kind of starting with restating a myth that I think a lot of people could easily relate to, but that isn't factually correct, and then dispelling it with the fact that's supported by credible references. Build a campaign around that. I think started with friendly audiences to kind of test the messaging, but have progressively worked out to more and more broad audiences, and definitely a heavy social media and online presence. But yeah, the idea is to provide the resources and the facts and engage in dialogue to make sure that we have an informed conversation around coal and the possibilities associated with coal that's based in fact.
Yes. And the following is great. The clips are perfect. There's some that are cartoonish and will grab the eye of a younger person. And then there's the older ones, or those that an older person would look at and say, oh, I want to go deeper dived into that. And so I think it's been a highly effective campaign, and really appreciate that Consol at the Time Corps has this program that's out there for us to share and use for people.
For sure.
All right. Okay. So we have a thing called the Fast Fire 5. And today we're going to do Getting to Know Dan Connell. And so with that, what's one thing you do every morning without fail?
My mornings are pretty boring and to the point. I wake up, make a cup of coffee, and generally dive right into work. But I'd say one thing I do every day without fail is make sure I carve out time to either go for a run or a walk or work out. I will say for me, that generally happens in the evening after work, but it's when a lot of my best thinking occurs, even though I'm trying not to think. So it's a great way to decompress, but also a great way to foster creativity and new ideas.
I love it. Just being by yourself.
Yeah.
I love it. What was your first job?
First job was actually, I'll skip kind of the odds and ends from my earlier childhood, but I was an intern at St. Clair Hospital, which is one of the local hospitals here in the Pittsburgh region. And I was tasked with, this was dating myself a little bit, but trying to develop the hospital's first intranet system.
Intranet.
So it was a great assignment. Got to learn a lot on the job. And interestingly, when I interviewed for my Consol internship, after that, the first question that was asked was, "Do you know anything about computers?" So amazing how far we've come since then.
And you're like, yes, I do.
Yeah.
What's the last book or article you read that has stuck with you?
I read an awful lot of articles. The one I'll point out today is probably The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen, which is a book I've read multiple times. Tends to be used in business schools, around innovation. But for me, it's like an extremely relatable description of kind of what I'm trying to accomplish with the innovations group and how that can either go very, very well or very, very poorly, depending on how you set it up in the framework of a larger, mature organization.
That's interesting. You never really think about it. A lot of times you think about innovation being ground floor. Somebody just has this dream and all of a sudden it becomes bigger. But then this is actually a well-established, that's like, we're going to innovate.
Right. But if you try to run an innovation company like a coal company, you run into a lot of obstacles. So you got to position it correctly, which is what we've tried to do.
Excellent. If you weren't in energy and innovation, what would your dream job be?
I probably have two. So it's a toss-up. One would be, I'd say, a travel critic. I just love traveling, and I love being critical of things when I travel. So it seems like a natural fit, but I have a lot of experience. The other would be just a landscaper. One of my favorite things to do. I'd say on a weekend, I'm either taking a trip or working in the yard. And that probably speaks to what I like to do, if that's how I'm choosing to spend my...
It's so funny that you said travel and critical, because I was just on a trip with my sisters, and we decided that we should start a blog called The Critical Sisters.
There you go.
Yeah. Finally, what excites you about working in coal right now?
I think just kind of the fact that coal, where the industry is at in the business cycle, just creates this huge spectrum of opportunity. It's a very established, mature industry. Demand is at an all-time high globally, so that's really exciting. But at the same time, it's kind of at that point where it's ready to reinvent itself for the future. And the ability to be in the thick of that just leaves a lot of room for creativity and for kind of making a mark on where things go.
Truly shaping the future of coal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I for one second, I have to tell you, I got the opportunity to go to the White House when President Trump signed the EOs. And just so happens, I got to sit by the two gentlemen leading Core Resources. I got to sit by Jimmy and Paul Lang.
Yeah.
And I looked at both of them and I said, did you ever think this was going to happen?
Right.
It was just, and both of them were like, no, not ever. I mean, and it gives me goosebumps to this day, because it was a turning point for coal right now. But to see these guys that have put so much time and effort into an industry to be honored and to sit there and say,
Yes,
this is our time.
I thought it was a great event. You had longtime veterans kind of being able to take pride in everything that they've built. And you also had, newer miners kind of I think getting energized about
Yes.
the possibilities.
Yeah.
Looking at the collection of people in that room, I think does give you goosebumps about where the industry is heading.
Truly does. And the people that just have always been there for it and
Sure.
and are going to be there and see it through. So that's incredible. Well, I love it. We're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back and talk more about innovation.
Sounds great.
Okay.
For decades, Elgin has been a trusted name in material separation, sizing, and dewatering, leading the way with its Tabor line of vibrating screens. Built for coal preparation, Elgin's screens are engineered to deliver unmatched durability, precise sizing, and dependable dewatering performance. From heavy-duty scalping to fine drain and rinse applications, Tabor screens maximize uptime and throughput in the toughest conditions. Available in horizontal incline, reverse incline, and multi-slope configurations, each model features customizable options like modular screen panels, quick-change spring seats, and robust wear linings to suit your plant's exact needs. Looking to maximize your coal prep dewatering operations? Elgin CMI horizontal vibratory centrifuges features a compact size, having a processing capability up to 200 TPH, down to a 0.25 millimeter particle size. Available in both 30 and 15 degree wet end configurations to meet material requirements. Elgin delivers more than just equipment. It delivers performance you can count on. Visit elginseparationsolutions.com to learn more about our solutions for the coal industry.
Well, welcome back to Coal Nation. Today we have Dan Connell, and we've been talking about innovation here and what Core Natural Resources is doing with innovation out here at Tridelphia, West Virginia. I'm traveling with somebody who's like, oh my gosh, we're in West Virginia. We're up here in this little tiny corner of West Virginia, right outside of Pennsylvania. For those that listen that may not know where we're at, I want to take a little bit more time to talk about the coal-derived materials, how you're revolutionizing the industry using coal, and talk about Touchstone Advanced Composites and where you see that going.
Sure. Yeah, Touchstone Advanced Composites is really the first of our coal to products initiatives to go into what I would call the scale phase. So when we look at our process here, it starts with innovation, and that's where we're developing new ideas. We're killing some of those ideas and advancing others of them on to further stages of development. Then we go into the test phase where we're saying, hey, is the market accepting this material? Is it performing well? Can it be commercially viable, profitable? And only at that point do we kind of make the investments needed to aggressively grow it. And Touchstone is in that. This is a company that takes in coal, uses the coal to make carbon foam, as we talked about a little bit before, uses that carbon foam as a tooling or a mold material to make carbon fiber composite aerospace parts, and then actually makes those carbon fiber composite aerospace parts. So in Tridelphia, as you saw earlier today, we got a facility where coal's coming in one side and aircraft or spacecraft parts are going out the other side. And it's a really cool business. It is commercial. We have a number of customers, names that all of you would recognize in the aerospace and defense industry. And it's a business that we're growing. So we're hiring right now.
I say there's a sign up that says you're hiring.
Exactly, a really big sign. The full plane on it. So.
And you're building out.
And we are.
A clean room.
Yeah, expanding our clean room space, increasing the facility size here, by 25 to 30%. So that should be ready to open up end of this year, beginning of next, and just a really exciting thing to be a part of, and definitely I would say an application where coal is being used as a key ingredient that the general public is largely unaware of.
I loved when we sat down before we went on the tour and you talked about companies that have R&D,
Yeah.
and you both said we're heavy on the D, light on the R. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't just about research. This is actually getting something to the end product.
Yeah. And I joined Consol Energy at the time through its R&D department, and a lot of the work we were doing at that point was maybe a little bit more traditional R&D and more focused on, for example, developing an emissions control solution for a coal-fired power plant. That's really important work, and we helped a lot of our customers better utilize our coal product that way. But what we're doing here is a little bit more disruptive, let's say, and trying to just totally rethink how we can use this resource to meet unmet needs of the future and turn that into a sustainable business opportunity.
So on that front, let's talk about the aerospace and really what is so cool about the aerospace and how you got involved in that and where it's going.
Yeah, I mean, I think aerospace it's an industry where a lot of progress is being made, and there's a need for high performance materials. And I often like to say we don't like to force coal or carbon into applications where it doesn't belong. We like to look for applications where it can bring something to the table. So our initial point of entry here was using seafoam as a tooling material. It has high strength, it has light weight, it's very machinable. And it also has
Very
a very
accurate, right?
yeah, very low coefficient of thermal expansion, which means when you heat it up, it doesn't change size. And it's being used to cure a very high precision aircraft parts, a tooling material that's not going to move around during that cure and cause the part dimensions to change. And it turned out that seafoam made from coal was a great fit for that. Now we're looking at a whole array of applications, and we have a number of instances where a partner or a customer will walk in and we'll start talking about carbon materials, and they'll say, well, could you make me, a certain shape that has this thermal conductivity and this strength to weight ratio and this electrical resistance? And one of the beauties of these carbon materials is that you can engineer a lot of those properties. So we're all about innovating and providing solutions to those challenges, and working on certainly much broader uses of coal-derived materials than just aerospace tooling right now.
So at one point this morning, as you guys were talking about all these innovations and things, I mean, I had this idea of the Big Bang Theory in my head, and people working on all these different innovations using the very smart tools that they have. You just hired somebody from Caltech, I believe it was. This is not your grandfather's coal mining business here. This is something truly incredible. So just what kind of jobs are you looking for?
Yeah, so we have a wide range of jobs, certainly PhD level positions, chemists, battery engineers, material scientists. I'm a chemical engineer, not a PhD, but also, a variety of skilled technical positions.
Oh, the CNC machines,
Right.
they're massive.
Yes. So machinists, we have aerospace composite technicians that specialize in laying up carbon fiber composite materials to make parts. And there's a lot of training opportunities for people who are interested and have the desire and skill set to get into this industry, but don't have the experience. A lot of, let's say, traditional construction jobs, finished carpentry, auto body work tends to lend itself very well to transitioning into some of the types of roles that we have on the manufacturing floor. So it is a great opportunity for creating new jobs and creating new skill sets among the workforce in the region, and we're happy to be a part of that.
Certainly. And redefining the image of what coal work looks like. So we sit on the deck out there, and that's something that's fascinated me from the first time you talked about the decking material, because I think when people think about coal and decking material, they go, really?
Yeah.
You burn coal for power and now you're going to put it on a deck, and is it going to, but that's not the case at all. So a little bit, why is that not the case? How soon before we can buy it in a store?
Yeah. So decking gets us into the building product space, which we really haven't talked a whole lot about yet, but it's a project that we started and really took through our whole process. So that started with kind of the innovate phase, actually kind of traditional R&D. We were working with Ohio University, kind of at the lab scale to develop the decking, call it 7 or 8 years ago, and have progressively scaled it up and really optimized the product. But the vision here is there is going to be an awful lot of need for building products into the future. And yes, we're going to still use lumber and steel and cement and brick, and coal is going to play a big role in making some of those products. But the opportunity set, when you think about the world needing to build 2 billion new houses by the end of the century, kind of all hands on deck. And when we looked at that, we said, hey, we have this waste material, our tailings, that are actually certainly an environmental liability that we have to manage. And if we could repurpose that and turn it into an opportunity to meet some of this building product demand, that would be tremendous. And that's what we've been working on. As you mentioned, you might think, what does coal bring to this equation? And actually, when you think of some of the properties that are desirable in a building product, so moisture, mold, mildew, rot resistance, coal accomplishes that better than wood. Actually, maybe counterintuitively, fire resistance. Yes, coal is a fuel, but when you're using coal, or especially coal tailings, pretty hard material to ignite. And in building products, it's all about, a lot of the equation is about preventing ignition. So these materials actually perform quite well from a flammability perspective. And yes, we've been able to introduce our waste coal tailing streams and displace plastic in some of these building products and create what I think are pretty aesthetically attractive products that offer the same performance as what's on the market, but with a really awesome sustainability story and some of these additional benefits that coal brings to the table.
Absolutely. I think for so long, we've always heard about concern for the environment, and here it is, it becomes a full life cycle event, right?
Exactly.
And it's recycling what's already been used and
Yep.
repurposing it, and it is sustainability. And I truly, honestly believe we've always been environmentally conscious, and now it's just even better.
Yep.
So that makes me so happy to hear that. Quickly, can we talk a little bit about, from a policy or an investment standpoint, what needs to happen to accelerate coal to products in the US? What do you think's missing?
Yeah. I think one of the fortunate things is, again, with the approach that we're taking of putting these products into market segments where there is a need and where coal brings a value proposition to the table. The good news is these are not opportunities, where I believe they're going to be dependent on incentives for to be successful throughout their life cycle. That being said, I think the two areas where we can always use a little help is on the front end. So kind of in that innovation R&D phase, we've obviously had a number of the initiatives that we are now working to move toward commercialization did start with Department of Energy funding in kind of a cost shared R&D situation. And I think more of that will keep the pipeline full with new opportunities and help to de-risk things up front. The other area that I always emphasize is kind of early off-takers for these products. So whether that's, the government and various agencies within the government obviously use a lot of what we're making, Department of Defense being a prime example, but you get into infrastructure materials and maybe it's the Department of Transportation or something like that. But I think opportunities to partner and have off-takers who are willing to kind of take some of that initial market risk off the table and provide stories that you can use as you look to penetrate commercial markets is maybe an unconventional way that we could get some help.
Right. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk. Yeah. It all starts with a conversation, right?
Exactly.
Just like the person that sits down and says, "Hey, can you do this?" And you're like,
Yeah.
"Hadn't thought about that, but we probably can."
Exactly.
Yeah. It's truly an innovate. What you guys are doing here is amazing. What gives you the most excitement for the next 5 to 10 years? And 10's a long time, but
Yeah. I would say in my current role, it's the fact that we are kind of right on the cusp of taking concepts that have been in the lab or at a pilot scale and trying to commercialize them and turn them into viable businesses. And that's obviously a very scary place to be because there's a lot of twists and turns that come with commercializing something for the first time, and probably some hard lessons learned along the way. But it's a very exciting opportunity as well. And the thought that this work, that we're doing using coal again as a starting point can make an impact on society and fill some needs where there isn't an obvious solution is a tremendous challenge and a great opportunity. And I think that's what probably motivates me every day.
coming back, I will always remember being in New York and you standing up there and describing it as a renaissance, and then having to go dig back through your memories. Okay, what exactly is a renaissance? But it truly is that opportunity, right? I mean, coal has been, it is a standard. It's been there a long time. It powered a nation. It gave us industry. It has gone down, but it is truly on the cusp of being something incredible again that's going to actually be the well-being for the citizens of the United States, the global economies, everything. And I mean, you're sitting right here at it, right? I mean, this is where it's going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah, I think even just using the term renaissance probably gives you excitement, right?
It does.
So,
well, I think for anybody that's been in the coal business for even a marginal part of time is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. This is what we've worked our whole life for.
yep.
Yeah, it's truly incredible. That being said, what is one thing we haven't talked about today that you think needs to be said?
Yeah, I mean, I think we touched on it with the Not So Fast campaign, but I can't emphasize enough the need to focus on education and getting the word out. Because a lot of what we're talking about here is going to evolve over the course of years, decades before it reaches its full potential. And it's, like it or not, probably not going to be you or me carrying it forward that long. So we really need kind of the next generation of creative thinkers to have the facts and embrace the opportunity and be excited about it, or else it's going to be an opportunity that isn't realized. And that starts with schools and making sure that people from an early age are kind of receiving a well-balanced message about our natural resources and how you can use them in creative and progressive ways.
I am so glad that that's the way you went, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to bring it back around and say, let's talk about how cool this is.
Yeah.
And for those kids that are coming up that are playing on their phones, or they're constructing things, or they're using their computers for 3D graphics and everything. We had the conversation today about 3D videos and how would you use them and to show off your products. I think you have it all right here. For anybody that likes to use their hands or their minds or whatever, it's all right here. And it's in an environment that uses coal, which for so long people just had thrown away. We don't use it anymore, but right here today, the future young minds should grab a hold of this and say, I'm excited to be part of this.
Exactly. And we see that reaction when we do talk with kind of the students and younger generations. A story I like to tell, our friends across the way here at Touchstone Advanced Composites did an assembly. It was kind of focused on carbon foam and carbon-derived products, and was done with a middle school age class at one of the local schools. They were so impressed that they chose, to make that their big end of the year project, and they sent a piece of seafoam up with a weather balloon, kind of to the outer edges of space, and had a camera positioned on it because they heard about coal that was mined right here in West Virginia being used to make seafoam, which was being used in aerospace. And they said, well,
let's do something.
Let's do something, and captured some really great footage of, not only wheeling, but eventually kind of the curvature of the Earth. But it had like it would have been a life-changing, project for some of these students who were interested in science and technology and what they can do with their futures.
It's so important for us to share stories, right? Yeah. And never take it for granted that one simple interaction with anybody is not going to change their life trajectory. It's just like those kids, right? It's so important to sit down and have the conversations. Well, Dan, I really appreciate the opportunity today to come out here and visit with you and do our first podcast in person, not just over a Zoom. Have really enjoyed the time with you and your team, and can't thank you enough for what you're doing for coal, and especially shaping the future of coal, and just being proud.
Yeah.
Proud of the industry.
No, and we were thrilled to have you and show off what we're doing, and thanks for this opportunity to tell our story. We love to tell it, and look forward to everything that we'll do going forward. So.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Yep. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you for tuning in to Coal Nation, the official podcast of the American Coal Council. Our mission is to share coal's story and showcase its critical role in powering our economy and supporting our way of life. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe. The American Coal Council represents members across the entire coal supply chain and advocates tirelessly for our vital industry. There is strength in numbers, and we'd love for you to be part of the conversation. By joining ACC, you gain exclusive access to the latest industry developments, a voice in our work that can benefit your business, and incredible networking opportunities. To learn more, visit www.americancoalcouncil.org. Together, we are shaping the future of coal, and it's exciting. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.